House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. Gambling has been around since this country has started, and women have played an important role in the growth of the gambling industry. And now a new book has documented the role women have played in the gambling business of this country. It's called That Expletive Broad, and it's written by gaming attorney Jennifer Gaynor. Coming up, we're going to talk with Jennifer about the early female pioneers of gambling in this country all the way up to the present day. It's an incredible book about the women in the world of gambling and casinos. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
You lose track of time in those casinos. There's no windows, there's no clocks, and you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. Gambling has been a part of this country since it was founded, and women have played a crucial role in the growth of gambling. A great new book has documented the stories of some of these incredible women that broke barriers and helped shape the gambling business today. The book is titled That Expletive Broad, and I want to talk to the author right now, gaming attorney Jennifer Gaynor. Jennifer, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
I got to tell you, first, I love the title of your book, That Expletive Broad. How did that become the title of your book?
That's actually one of my favorite stories about the book. So as I was researching the various women that I was going to feature in the book, one of them, named Deborah Nutton, she was one of the first women to be a craps dealer on the Las Vegas Strip. And at a very early age, she became a pit boss at a strip casino, and some of the gentlemen that she worked with were less than thrilled that she was there. And so they would refer to her as that blank broad, something that, for a while was a bit of a challenge for her. She actually hid in the ladies' room during, break times to avoid seeing these men in the break room. But eventually she went on, like I said, to become a very young pit boss. And then she went on to be, a top executive for MGM and the Wynn, and had a stunning career in the gaming industry.
I've never read a book like this, and it was so great to read about the women in gambling. I mean, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, as you know, I've been a gaming attorney here in Las Vegas for more than 15 years. And, year after year, you go to the gaming conferences. I know you've been there.
Sure.
And you see lots of what we call manels. And that's, panels consisting mostly of men.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was at a gaming conference a couple of years ago, and, I was flipping through, looking at what our panels would be that day, and I saw manel after manel, and, it was a little bit disheartening. But then I looked around the room and I saw some amazing women in gaming, women like Sandra Douglas Morgan, who was then the chair of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, my good friend Ellen Whittemore, who is now general counsel at the Wynn. And I realized there was a lot of kick-ass women in that room. And there had been throughout the history of gaming, and I really wanted to make sure that their stories were told and shared.
I think it's great how you organized your book, too. You took us from the early days of gambling through corporate America and then with the women who worked in government and regulation. I especially love the story of the women in the early days of gambling because I have to admit, when I think of the Wild West and the card rooms west of the Mississippi, I really don't think of women in the gambling business. But there were several. I mean, for example, you have the story of Lottie Deno, who was incredibly interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about Lottie and some of the other women who were literally the real pioneers of women in gambling in this country?
Yeah, Lottie Deno, she was a great story. So she was, she had a very privileged childhood upbringing. Her father was a plantation owner, and he also raised race horses. But he had two daughters. He had no sons. So when he went on business trips, he would take Lottie with him often. And he was a gambler. So he would take her with him to the casinos in New Orleans, New York, even over in Europe. And along the way, he taught her how to play. So she actually, at a very young age, as a teenager, became a bit of a card shark. And this actually came in super handy for her when her father, unfortunately, perished. He was fighting in the Civil War, and he actually died, I think, in the first battle he fought in. So that left her mother with two daughters and a plantation to run. At a time when it was hard to, find men to come and work on their plantation. So her family sent her off to the city, to Detroit, hoping that where they had family friends, hoping that she could find a man to marry who she could then bring back and could run the plantation for the family. But of course, that's not what Lottie did. She went to Detroit. She went on the party circuit, and then she started gambling at card rooms and playing poker, and realized that she could make a lot of money doing that. Actually, enough money that she was able to support her mother and her sister with the proceeds she won from gambling. And then she went on to, have a very stellar career in the gambling industry.
Another part of the book I found really enlightening, because I've really never thought of it that way, were the women who actually owned casinos. And one of those inspirational stories you document was the incredible life of Saran Knight Preddy. I mean, tell us a little bit about her, because she impacted Las Vegas, she impacted the gambling business, and she was really influential even outside of the gambling business.
She was. Saran Knight Preddy, she's a very inspirational figure here in Las Vegas, especially in the African-American community. You know, she started off as the dealer in the card rooms in the segregated west side of Las Vegas. And I actually really enjoyed getting the opportunity to write about the west side and how Las Vegas, you know, once upon a time was segregated. So you would have, you know, famous African Americans who could perform on the strip, but they couldn't stay in the strip casinos. So there was actually a really active after-party nightlife on the west side where a lot of these performers, you know, African American and white alike, would come and spend their time after hours, you know, gambling in the casinos and the gaming parlors on the west side.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Where was the house? Where was the House of Cards?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there is no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with gaming attorney and author of That Expletive Broad, Jennifer Gaynor. Sorry about that. Radio has to do its business, you know. Why don't you continue what you were saying before the break?
But anyway, that's where she started off working in the gaming industry because it was a very difficult time for her as a black woman to find, you know, a career elsewhere in Las Vegas where it was segregated. And she went on to become the first woman to get a gaming license in the state of Nevada. And, you know, she took that experience and she became involved with the NAACP and, you know, civil rights groups in Las Vegas and across Nevada. And she did a lot to advance African-American people. You know, for one, she ran for office. You know, she was the first female African-American to win a primary running for city council in Las Vegas. She ended up not winning. She went out of politics, decided it wasn't for her, and she went back to, you know, what she knew, which was gaming and running other businesses. You know, she was quite an entrepreneur and quite an inspiration for many.
You know, I found that aspect incredibly interesting. I was wondering, I mean, was it just the prejudice of Nevada at that time to keep her away from certain areas of the gaming business, or was it the laws of Nevada really keeping the women, especially Sarah Ann, down? Because, you know, she wasn't allowed to work certain places, yet she was allowed to have a casino license, and she owned a casino. What was going on there?
Well, that was in northern Nevada, you know, versus in Las Vegas, where there were various rules and ordinances. You know, for example, they after she had become a dealer, they came up with an ordinance, you know, prohibiting women from being dealers in strip casinos in the city of Las Vegas. And, you know, that was, I think, prompted because a lot of, you know, women at the time, they saw their men going off to casinos and gambling. And if there were female dealers, they were afraid they would lead the men astray and tempt them to gamble even more and perhaps cheat on them. So, you know, women as dealers, women in the casinos working, you know, were very much frowned upon by society. So that was something that she had to overcome, in addition to, you know, the general segregation of Las Vegas at the time.
It seems that one of the areas in the casino and gambling business that women are underrepresented is at the executive level, but there are women who did achieve incredible success at the executive level. I mean, one of the women I was thinking of, and you documented in the book, was Virginia McDowell. Tell us a little something about her and the other women that have reached very successful levels in the gambling business at the executive level.
Yeah, and a lot of times, you know, one thing I found interesting while I was writing this book was, you know, I think in a lot of cases it was never an intention, you know, to become an executive in the gaming industry. You know, Virginia McDowell, for example, she started off, you know, as a journalism student, working in radio and television. But then she saw that gaming was introduced in, you know, your hometown, New Jersey, and wanted to get involved in the industry at the very beginning. So she sent out, because she had become an expert in marketing and, you know, TV and radio, and that was her major in college, was journalism. She was attractive to marketing directors at gaming properties. I believe it was the Tropicana, and they hired her to do marketing, and that's how she got into the gaming industry. But she ended up meeting some men along the way who were really mentors to her and taught her a lot about the actual operational side of gaming. And brought her along. You know, one of the first major things she did was taking over a struggling gaming company, Argosy Gaming, and turning it around. And I think one of the ways she was able to do that was she had a very hands-on approach. So she would go down to the casino floor. She would talk to customers. She would, you know, be very interested in what they liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted to see, and found ways to really make it a better experience for customers, and thus made, you know, casinos more successful. And someone who knew her from her time at Argosy, when the Isle of Capri position, CEO position, became available, you know, really lobbied for her to be interviewed for the position because they knew, you know, what a great job she could do. And that's how that came to be about.
You know, I was reading that Expletive Abroad, your great book, here in New Jersey at the perfect time, I think, because the big story that broke about a month and a half ago was that Caesars Entertainment named Jacqueline Gray Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Tropicana Casino in Atlantic City. Now, with that hire, it means that 4 of the 9 Atlantic City casinos were run by women, the other 3 being Melanie Johnson at the Borgata, Terry Glabaki at Ocean Resort, and Carrie Hall at Bally's. And that really made me think, because I was reading that section when I saw the news story break, and I was thinking, I was like, is New Jersey doing well in comparison to other states that have casinos? Is, in your opinion, is that ratio or percentage keeping pace with other gaming markets across the country?
Oh, certainly. You know, I think that's, you know, great strides being made in New Jersey right now. But, you know, this time with the pandemic, it's actually been a very challenging time for women in the workforce generally, in the gaming industry in particular. Where, you know, gaming and hospitality is one of the industries that was very hard hit by the pandemic. And you look at some of the news stories coming out, talking about how this is having a outsized impact on women, that they're, you know, leaving the workforce at, you know, 4 times the rate that men are. So this makes it a very important time for women to be having these executive roles in the gaming industry and really keeping a hold of the progress that women have made in the gaming industry, to become these executives. But we also have to be very careful that we don't lose women at all levels of gaming, because, you're not going to be able to have women in these executive roles if you don't have the pipeline at the lower levels leading up to that. So, I think this is a great time for this book and the messages in the book about the importance of women in the gaming industry, and for gaming companies to really pay attention, to make sure they're continuing to feed that pipeline.
Well, I'm curious. You mentioned it. I mean, are there gaming companies right now doing more to promote women and diversity in the workplace, especially at the executive level?
There definitely are, gaming companies that are working very hard to do that. And some of that is, prompted by some of the women in my book, who have become executives and are doing a lot to help women. And the Global Gaming Women organization, I think, has played a very important role in promoting that throughout the years. MGM's always had they took an early stance, and Caesars as well, and making sure that this was a priority for them. You see places like, the Wynn, where, they were kind of in a lot of trouble when it came to, misogyny and how women were treated in that workforce not that long ago, as we all famously know, with the cases against Steve Wynn. And they've had a major turnaround in their representation of women on their board, and putting Ellen Whittemore, choosing her to be the general counsel for the Wynn. So, there's definitely companies in Las Vegas and in the gaming industry that are doing really good things in this area.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of June 7, 2021. According to the latest figures from the New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement, Atlantic City casinos reported profits of more than triple the amount from this time last year. Garden State Casinos brought in more than $95 million in the first quarter of 2021. MGM's Borgata Casino led all properties with more than $29 million in revenue, an increase of more than 28% from this time last year. Governor Ned Lamont signed into law Connecticut's gambling expansion bill, allowing not only sports betting but online gaming in the state. The new gaming compacts made Connecticut one of only a handful of states in this country to allow online gaming. The state compacts still require federal approval from the United States Department of the Interior. And finally, for the first time in North American history, a sporting event was played in an arena that contained a sports book. The William Hill Sportsbook inside the Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C. took bets while the playoff game between the Washington Wizards and the Philadelphia 76ers was played. The 18,000 square foot space has 20 betting windows, a dozen betting kiosks, and will be open 365 days a year. Great news from Washington, D.C. Having news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation, send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Whoa!
I think we got a show. Oh, yeah, we got a show. We definitely got a show. Oh, yeah, there's a show. Hey, it's all about ratings, baby, and we got them.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here. House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with gaming attorney and author of That Expletive Broad, Jennifer Gaynor. You know, I want to ask you about the women who became the regulators who oversee the gambling activity in the state. And the one person I was going to bring up, you actually already brought up, Sandra Douglas Morgan. I found it amazing that a woman with such incredible knowledge of the gaming industry and gaming law, when the governor of Nevada called her up to be chair of the Nevada Gaming Control Board, she thought he was calling her to ask about the retirement of another board member, which I found that an absolutely mind-blowing story. I mean, tell us a little bit about Sandra Douglas Morgan.
She's incredibly smart, incredibly polished, but, one of the most modest people I've ever met. When I actually initially approached her at a Global Gaming Women event to interview her for the book, she was like, "Me? Are you sure?" She's like, "I've only been chair for less than a year. I haven't accomplished that much." And I had to tell her, Sandra, just by virtue of being the chair of the Gaming Control Board, the second female and the first African American chair of the board, just by being you and being in that position, you've accomplished quite a lot for women in the gaming industry. But yeah, and then when I was interviewing her, she was talking about how she really preferred getting involved in the operation of being the board chair and the policy of it. And I pointed out how important it was for me personally as a woman in the industry to see her speaking at gaming conferences and to see her up there. As a role model and someone that, women could aspire to be was extremely important. And she said, I really never thought about that, how important it was for me to be there, to be in the room, to be up there speaking. So she said, I'm going to make sure that I focus on doing that a lot more, because throughout her experience, she had women, at the MGM that she worked with, for example, who were inspirational role models and positions and executive positions that she could look up to. And, she brought up the quote, you have to see it to be it. And I think that's very true. Plus, she had a great background, not only in gaming, but she went through what she called trial by fire when she was working as counsel for the city of North Las Vegas, and they were having, one of their worst fiscal crises ever. And she helped, work with the governor, work with the mayor of the city, and shepherding the city through, what was a time of crisis, to turn things around and become, a very successful city, put it on a road to success. So, and she's pointed out, after going through that at the city of Las Vegas, that was really my trial by fire. She overcame in her own life and career what is known as imposter syndrome. And I think that's something that women suffer from a lot more than men. And that's, thinking that you're not qualified to be there. You look around, you're like, why am I here? What do I know? Do I know anything? And, going through that experience really helped her to overcome that and have a lot more confidence moving forward, which also helped her to be a great chair.
When we talk about the gambling industry, I mean, there are a bunch of branches within the industry itself. I mean, there's PR, there's player development, there's marketing. Are there areas in the gambling industry itself where women are really underrepresented to a point where companies should really be focusing on that area with regard to employment of women?
Sure, because, if you look at the numbers, and this is something I talk about in my book, where there might be, 38% of women represent at the executive level, but you realize they're siloed into certain categories. For example, you don't see a lot of women on the operational side. You don't see a lot of women on the floor. You don't see a lot of women in IT or security, where you do see a lot of women are areas that are typically thought of as women industries like human resources and marketing. And I point out in the book, for women, for themselves, taking a hold of their careers, one of the things they can do is look for areas where there isn't a lot of representation by women, and ask, their bosses to get them training in that area or to get experience in those areas. And that's something that companies can, really look for and try to encourage as well.
Right now, the gambling industry, certain states are allowing sports betting and online gambling. I mean, certainly we don't have the complete numbers and the research right now with regard to employment demographics. But do you think those are the next areas of gambling that have to be looked at with regard to women and their impact on the sector of the industry?
Well, I think those are, obviously growth areas for the industry. So it's, extremely important for women to be involved there. Sports betting in particular has, long time very much been a man's world.
Yeah.
So, when you see women making strides and being represented there, like my friend Jennifer Roberts is, counsel at the Interactive Gaming over at the Wynn, I think that's very exciting, and you hope to see more of that.
Looking back at the women you documented in your book, That Expletive Broad, throughout history of the gambling in this country, has there been one characteristic that all these women had that allowed them to push forward in what was once a male-dominated industry? Because I found it very interesting, and you brought this up in the interview, that, they did not set out to finally end up do what they're doing. I mean, a lot of the women and most of the women didn't think, hey, I'm going to own a casino. But what characteristic pushed them forward?
I think in most cases it's a few things, but one of it is they were all extremely hardworking. They were willing to put in the hours and the time. I think Claudine Williams, who was a high school dropout, who ended up becoming the owner and operator of a Las Vegas Strip casino. That's not a path you would ever seen happening. But she worked really hard. She was very persistent. She asked for what she wanted. For example, when she was a teenager, she convinced the owner at a nearby, gaming parlor that had opened up to hire her, and said that she had experience with dealing dice, which she didn't really, but he bought it and brought her on, and she became the first female dealer at that club. And that's something she did throughout her career. Is she wasn't afraid to ask for what she wanted. She worked really hard to gain the experience and the knowledge that would make her a valuable asset. So, persistence, curiosity, I think, about the gaming industry and really wanting to do it, love for the game. The early women, Alice Ivers, Lottie Dino, they loved gambling. They loved poker. They loved playing, and they were very successful at it. So, it's love for the game, it's love for the industry, it's persistence, and it's the willingness to be a first in an area, to be the first woman to be a dealer, to be, perhaps not get a great reception from your colleagues. That was very important to many of their success.
Now, you're a very successful woman in the gambling business. What has it meant for you personally to research and write about the women who have come before you in this industry?
Well, first of all, it was incredibly inspiring. Because I knew there were great women out there, many of whom I knew personally, from my own experience working in the industry. But to learn about some of the other women who I didn't know about, extremely inspirational for me in writing this book. But also, it's a really great networking tool, I have to say. If there are people that you look up to in the work world and you're not sure how to approach them, if you're going to interview them for an article or a book, that's a great tool. It gets you a conversation, it gets you an introduction, and I highly recommend it.
Jennifer, we're running out of time, but I certainly want to get your opinion on the current state of the gambling industry with regard to the pandemic. Certainly, it's been one of the most challenging times for the industry. I mean, I got to tell you, as a fellow gaming attorney, I've never before now had to draft a service contract for the cleaning and sanitizing of casino chips, but it's a very weird time. How do you see the gambling? How do you see the gambling industry emerging from this?
I think it's going to emerge stronger than ever. The gambling industry, as you know, over the years has gone through, many different changes and iterations from, kind of the lounges and the card playing that was prevalent, back in the 50s and the early days, to, the onslaught of the large slot floors that really became the moneymaker for casinos in more recent years. And I think we're going to see a change away from that. And, what exactly that will be, I don't know. Will it be esports? Will it be online gaming? Different kinds of experiences that casinos can bring to the table. I think all of it's, really worth exploring. And sports betting, of course, now that PASP has been repealed, that's only going to continue growing across the country. So, I think the gaming industry, it's a dark time now. It's a difficult time now, but I think there's blue skies on the other side of the pandemic.
Jennifer, can you tell people how they can get a copy of your book, That Expletive Broad? And if you have a website or a social media address, you can give that out too.
Sure. You can find me on Facebook at Jennifer Gaynor or LinkedIn at Jennifer Gaynor. And the book is available on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. So if you just Google That Expletive Broad, you will be able to find it online.
Jennifer Gaynor, attorney and author of That Expletive Broad. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing the stories of these incredible women of gambling with us. It's an incredible book about the gambling industry. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about it.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards. More bets, better odds at PlaySugarHouse.com. Sign up today at PlaySugarHouse.com and don't forget to use our promo code HOUSE to take advantage of their first deposit match up to $250. Must be 21 years or older and in New Jersey to place a bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Now that we're home more than ever, we need to feel safe. Call it a sign of the times or the world we now live in. What do you want to keep safe? The people in your life? What do you want to protect? Your possessions, the things that belong to you, the things that you've worked hard for. Wouldn't it be nice to have tested, trusted 24/7 protection? Peace of mind, real protection that's always there for you and your whole family? Well, now you can with one of our state-of-the-art home security systems. Everyone thinks their home is safe until the unexpected happens. Help protect your home and loved ones today with the affordable Next Generation in Home Security. To help keep your family and property safe, call 1-800-520-4068 now. Representatives are standing by to assist you. That's 1-800-250-4068. 1-800-520-4068.
You're listening to House of Cards.
The answer is probably. We're finished.
What are the odds? 1 in 100?
I don't do odds. I gave very detailed
casinos, sir.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. You know, sports betting has become popular in the U.S., and people want to know what's going on in the sports books across this country. So backed by popular demand, executive producer Doug Weishaupt is back with the book report to tell us what's going on in the sports books across the country. Doug, what do you got?
And welcome to this week's edition of the book report, where we're going to be talking about what's going on in the world of the sports betting industry in terms of the sports books, sports betting reports, both national and state, legislative updates, as well as deal updates. And we've got a bunch to talk about. We've got state and national reports as usual. We've got a lot of legislation: Arizona, Connecticut, Florida, some updates there. Even Canada has an update for legislation. And
even Connecticut.
And Connecticut.
Unbelievable.
See, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's even stuff with Louisiana, some other states too. Launches, we've got a couple of different things to talk about, and a bunch of deals as well, especially a very interesting one done by FanDuel. Let's start with a couple launches, because I think the Washington, D.C. area just did a little history.
Yeah, no, sports betting history was made last weekend.
It was the first time a sporting event was held in an arena or stadium that had an actual sports book in it. The Capital One Arena. A couple days before the game, the William Hill Sportsbook opened up in the arena, and that was actually in the, I want to get this right, it used to be what everyone knew as the Green Turtle. It was a sports bar in there.
There's actually a Green Turtle in northern New Jersey, so I'm not sure how far that sports bar chain goes, but there was one in New Jersey. There is one in New Jersey. So.
Well, this was an 18,000 square foot venue. It's going to be open 365 days a year. It's not just game day.
Good.
Which is nice to see. A lot of legislation wanted certain in-arena sports books to be only on game days, especially in the early stages of legislative formation. But this will be opened up year-round.
Good.
They're going to have 20 betting windows, as well as about a dozen or so self-serve kiosks. And this was the actual first time in United States history, actually North American history, that a sporting event happened at a book like this. I think we're going to start seeing this more and more.
I hope so. Yeah.
I know with Arizona and Maryland, they've got legislation on the books, and they're going to be having the sports betting sites within some of the teams' arenas.
Great.
Actually, even golf courses, too.
Yeah,
we're going to start getting into it. Going over to some of the numbers, we talked earlier about what's going on nationally with Nevada and New Jersey taking the lead from Nevada in terms of national sports betting handle. But Nevada, and this came about when Nevada released their April numbers. Nevada had a handle of $457.8 million, a revenue of $27.24 million, and a amount in taxes of $1.84 million. Again, Nevada, for people who aren't familiar with Nevada, they have the regulation in place where it's in-person registration.
Yeah, what that means is if you sign up for an online sports book, you have to finish your registration at the actual physical sports book.
Right, and of the $27 million,
it's a ridiculous rule. I'm not sure what.
Of course they want the traffic and
they want people through the doors. I get it. I understand. You walk through the door, you're going to play your slot machines, maybe a table game. But I understand why. But for convenience of people.
Well, that's the idea behind the in-person. Illinois just reinstated it not too long ago, about maybe 2 months ago. But mobile generated just under $18 million of the $27 million revenues. So mobile is getting, again, popular. Once people have it, people start doing the mobile betting wherever they're at. They're in a restaurant somewhere. They're they're home or out somewhere with the kids.
I mean,
family.
the in-person registration isn't too much of a burden if you're near Las Vegas or if you're near Reno. But if you're out in the outskirts of Nevada somewhere, what are you going to drive down to Las Vegas or Reno, a couple-hour drive to finish your registration
or
for
Henderson
mobile sports books?
or whatever.
Yeah, something like that.
It's one of those things where,
yeah.
And also if you're hiking in the mountains in Nevada, Nevada's huge for mountains, so you're not.
Well, no, I'm just saying living.
You're going to be able to do it while you're hiking. That's what the mobile allows you to do. If they didn't have their registration, if you wanted to do a registration in the mountains, you could do it.
Yeah. Well, that's the point. If you're next to an actual physical sports book, it's easier for you to complete your registration.
Yep. West Virginia and New Hampshire and Tennessee all reported their numbers. It's interesting. West Virginia had a $28 million handle in the month of April, which was the slowest month since July of 2020, which was a pandemic month.
Well, like I said, April's a tough month. There's after looking at March and the huge numbers in March, April is always kind of a letdown.
Well,
you have to be mentally prepared to look at the numbers from April.
It's one of those things where a lot of times you're looking at April, depending on what state it is, because there's a lot of different things going on. I know some states allow betting on spring football, and there's all different types of events. But April is almost, I guess, I don't want to say a dead month, but there's a lot
It's a slower month.
It also depends on the state. I mean, if you're a college basketball or college football state where that's your heavy betting, you're going to have a lower month anyway because there's none of that going on. Let's see. Over in West Virginia, the Greenbrier was the leader in handle, $12.4 million. Now, Greenbrier is the private.
I'm always
casino.
shocked with that. That's the. I've never been to the Greenbrier, but I know it's considered one of the air quotes private sports books where
you either have to be a guest at the Greenbrier.
You just can't walk off the street and go into the Greenbrier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they led the state because they're also partnered with two of the big ones, FanDuel and BetMGM. Mm-hmm. They actually partnered with two of the three big ones.
Good.
And they brought in $12.4 million in handle. Let's see. Both FanDuel and BetMGM came in around 94% of that total. So not a lot of actual retail betting going on at the Greenbrier itself. Colorado. Let's skip over to there. They released their they had a press release, and I thought it was kind of interesting. They were touting the total amount of taxes collected from the first year of sports betting.
Okay.
$6.6 million.
Wow, that's great.
Well, it's great on its face, but what they had promised in terms of anticipated tax revenue in the first year, I think it was like twice that amount, or maybe three times that amount.
But we went through a pandemic, so you gotta view those numbers in that kind of sphere of
you also got to remember
the environment there.
Colorado has online, and online they were like 98% online all the way through the pandemic anyway. I mean, a lot of sports weren't going on, but I bring up Colorado right now because they released the top sports for the year, and your favorite sport made the top 5.
Top 5, really? Table tennis, right? You're talking about table tennis,
table
right?
tennis.
Top 5, really?
Yes. Table tennis. Let's see. In the month of April, brought in $8.7 million.
Wow.
In handle. Table tennis for the first year, $99.98 million in handle.
Wow.
So there is a table tennis segment of the population that I guess lives in Colorado.
It's unbelievable. I mean, hey, good. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever thing you like. I'm looking at some of the sports books here in New Jersey. I'm looking see if anyone have a table tennis market here. So, I'm not seeing a lot of table tennis right now, but
Well, I just Colorado and Oregon just mystify me with table tennis.
Yeah,
Both of them are huge table tennis markets. Tennessee ranked 4th in the nation in terms of state sports betting revenue, almost $16 million in taxes over the past 5 months. So, given the fact that Colorado took in, what did I just say, $6 million, $6.6 million in the first year, Tennessee brought in $16 million.
Wow. Okay.
So,
by the way, table tennis. I'm looking at BetMGM. They BetMGM in New Jersey have table tennis. They also have snooker.
Snooker's fun to watch.
I guess. Yeah, I didn't know they had snooker.
One difference between Tennessee and Colorado, though, I have to point out, Tennessee has a 20% tax rate.
Okay.
So they tax like crazy up there, or down there, I should say. And New Hampshire threw out their numbers for April, $46.7 million handle. That's down 16% from March, but 1,100% increase from last year at that time, April of 2020. But
sports are back. I don't want to say the pandemic's over, but we're starting to get out of it. So people are out there, people are betting, and sports. A lot of sports are out there.
It was their lowest monthly total since November of 2020.
Okay,
so 37.4 million of the total handle was mobile. 9.3 million was retail. They had 3.3 million in revenue. Again, increase of almost 1,100%, or just over 1,100% from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Sports betting, they released also their year-to-date. Sports betting for the 9 months at the end of April, 32 million. 26 of that was online. 5 was retail. That's the revenue and a handle of 439 million during the 9-month period, with 376 spent on mobile. So their mobile industry, which is DraftKings.
Yeah.
That's kind of an indication of what New York's going to look like, I think.
Let me tell you something about New Hampshire in the wintertime. It is freezing up there, and, mobile anything up in New Hampshire in January and February is a good thing. So, mobile should do very, very well in the future in New Hampshire.
Oh, yeah. And a couple other launches to talk about. We have Bally's launching Ballybet in Colorado.
So what I'm hearing is they're going to have 3 more states. Have they announced the 3 more states, or 3 more jurisdictions, I should say?
No, but you got to think New Jersey is one of them.
Well, yeah, New Jersey. They have one of my favorite retail sports books in Atlantic City, and that was The Book. It was called The Book. I'm not quite sure what it's called right now, but it was
Bally's
The Book.
has a FanDuel sportsbook now.
Yeah.
So
yes. So my favorite one that used to be Bally's
it's still Caesars.
Is now Caesars.
It's Caesars,
but Bally's now has a new FanDuel
retail book.
Yeah.
Yes. Esports Entertainment Group got their gaming license approved from New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement, so they are going to be moving forward with launching their esports betting platform,
great,
as well as a sports betting platform in New Jersey. We'll see exactly how long that takes to go. Let's see, Indiana. I found this interesting. Not only did they add the NBA draft lottery to the approved events for sports betting, they just added the match.
Great, good.
They didn't have the match last year. I would have thought they would have had the match before this, or unless what they do is they take it on,
And when we talk about the match, we of course are talking about the golf tournament. With this year, it's Tom Brady and Phil Mickelson against Aaron Rodgers and Bryson DeChambeau, and
Right.
It's up in Montana, and it's the most fun thing that you could bet on all year. I love watching it. I love betting on it, and it's a lot of fun.
I was actually waiting for DraftKings to throw DeChambeau into that because they're one of the sponsors of the match.
Okay.
And that's their sponsored player. So it'll be fun to see exactly where this one goes. Last year's was good. I think the one with Barkley commentating instead of playing was better.
Yeah.
But
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Penn National just got cleared by the Gaming Commission in Maryland to operate Hollywood Casino Perryville, which means you're going to see Barstool Sportsbooks in Maryland pretty soon.
Great. I'm still waiting for Barstool in New Jersey. So
well, they haven't partnered with anybody yet. So.
Well, Penn National, and they isn't that Freehold?
Yeah, they haven't.
They haven't done really anything now in Freehold.
They have parks. They have parks there.
Yeah, Freehold has parks, but it's also Penn National is part owner of that. So I think a lot of people were hoping that maybe Barstool would do something there, but I guess we're still waiting.
And let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other launch to hit. No, that's it. Let's go over to some legislation. We just had Arizona got federal approval for their state gaming compact, so they're moving in the right direction there. Connecticut, same thing. They're actually going to get approval. They're applying for approval from the federal government for their compacts. Everything is moving in the right direction in those 2 states. Florida's still up in the air about what's going on with there. They're going to have to deal with some legislative challenges because there's still not only some questions regarding the gaming compact itself on the federal level, but I think some of the other senators and reps may even do some legal challenges because they feel it violates the state constitution.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens there. California finally has gotten their sports betting initiative on the November 2022 ballot.
Okay.
So they're going to. This has been years now.
It's still going to be years. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well,
what do we have a year and a half to wait for it to be in the ballot? Huh?
Well, you got to remember that there's a segment where they're doing the recall of the governor.
Yeah.
And there's a segment of the legislative branches that want to see if they can get sports betting included into that recall election, all that stuff. So I don't know. Maybe there's something there with that, but it's going to be kind of fun to watch to see exactly the legislative side of both Florida and California work themselves out there. I think it's going to be interesting to see where California ends up. I really don't see them getting it quicker than 2023.
No.
To be honest with you,
earliest a year.
Canada is moving forward on their single event sports betting bills. Bill C-218, which is what is called, it's the Safe and Regulated Sports Betting Act. It went through the second reading in the Senate. Now it's going to the Standing Senate Committee on Banking, Trade, and Commerce.
Okay.
If it makes it through there, it will receive royal assent and become law. And
Great.
They'll just start being able to offer single event sports betting.
Good.
I mean, I remember going up to Canada and, I never even realized they had sports betting at the times when we were up there, but we were a lot younger.
Yeah.
In Canada. So, but they have been pushing for single event instead of the parlays. Let's see. Moving over to some deals. This is a very interesting deal with FanDuel.
Oh, the Associated Press?
Yeah, everyone has been complaining about the media, the newspapers, some other sites, always quoting offshore unlicensed books.
Mm-hmm.
Well, FanDuel paid an undisclosed amount to the Associated Press to be their exclusive sports betting provider, odds provider, content provider.
Good.
So, it's going to be kind of weird.
I'm not sure why a lot of media companies did that. They always reported on what the offshore books were saying or doing and things like that. I don't know why they were doing that.
Because I think part of the reason is they're not used to dealing with licensed versus unlicensed. And also a lot of these guys who were writing these things are actually bettors at times and, may have used them and are familiar with them.
Okay.
And I've been going to a couple of the sites and I've noticed New Jersey's blocking a lot of them. Some of the offshore sites that used to go, used to look at for odds and everything else. And New Jersey's been cracking down for years on these things. It's getting more and more. But this is a step in the right direction, I think.
Sure.
It's one of those situations where they're no longer going to be quoting X sportsbook site, and it's going to be FanDuel. You're going to see. Let me get this right.
See, that's good for bettors in the U.S. because you get the appropriate lines, you get the appropriate analysis. Because FanDuel, I use FanDuel all the time, so I'm glad they're providing information to the AP.
Well, every link you're going to see in the AP doesn't automatically go to any kind of sign-up pages.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing,
which is fine. The information is good enough for me because that's what I want to see. I mean, if I use FanDuel, I would like the odds and the lines and the analysis from FanDuel, which helps me a lot as a U.S.-based bettor.
Well, FanDuel, the Associated Press, in part of the deal, they said they didn't want to get involved in any direct affiliate relationship with FanDuel, which is smart on their part because they're supposed to be a news source, impartial. But you're going to see a lot of the odds. You're going to see FanDuel widgets across the AP News website.
Good.
They're going to incorporate the widgets everywhere. They're going to distribute select content across the AP Wire, and they're also going to cite the odds. One of the interesting parts of the deal is the AP carved out an exception for some of their media company customers. They don't have to have anything with FanDuel. They can remove FanDuel from the content they use from the AP.
Okay.
So it's not a completely, totally exclusive deal, but it's a deal in terms of, you know, it's great for the AP. It's great for DraftKings, FanDuel, and you know, it's a step in the right direction, I think. You know, that's basically it for the book report this week.
Well, that'll do it for us this week. I'll see you next time on House of Cards.
Across the desert plain, you build a house of cards around a lover's heart. Wild country in your head, gone dead, riverbed.